This is Gemara Baba Basra, Daf Kof Lamid Zayin, and we're holding on the bottom of Kof Lamid Vav Amid Beis, about 12 lines from the bottom. The first one in line is Navshe. We're in the middle of the sugya of Kinyina Peirois, Ki Kinyina Kof Tami, the Machlekes, Rav Yechon, and Rish Lakish. And once again, we like all the learning to be an incredible Schos Rafua Shlema for Tinaik. Ben Miriam Ahuva b'siyata d'shmaya, we should continue seeing the Koyach HaTorah bring the ultimate Yeshuais and the Refuais. So we're in the middle of a machlekes. Rav Yechon and Rish Lakish. Rish Lakish holds Kinyan HaPeiros is lav ki Kinyan Guftami. Rav Yechon holds it's yes ki Kinyan Guftami. We just finished a discussion. Why do we need this machlekes? We've already had such a machlekes, and we explained why our case would potentially be different. From there, we continue. Eisvei Rav Yechon the Rish Lakish. Rav Yechon asks Rish Lakish, the Chasei Lecha v'Acharecha Yireish Bloini. Someone on his deathbed says that the property should go to you, and after you it goes to someone else. V'Acharav Yireish Bloini, and after him it goes to someone else. What's the halach? Meis Rishain Kanasheni. Meisheni Kanashlishi. Meisheni Bechaye Rishain. But let's say the second guy dies before the first guy. So it's supposed to go to Reuven, then to Shimon, and then to Levi. But Shimon dies while Reuven is still alive. So what do we do right now? Yachshru Nechasav Nechasim Liyarshe Rishon. So now the chain is broken. And now instead of going from Reuven to Shimon, it goes straight from Reuven to Reuven's Yarshim, Reuven's kids. That is the end of the Brisa. Says Rav Yechanan in Akasha to Rish Lakish. Now, according to you, that Kinyan HaPeiros is lav ki Kinyan HaGoftami, that owning the rights to something is not the same thing as owning the actual karka. So what did Reuven, what did the first guy have? He just had a Kinyan Peiros. He didn't have the actual item. So when Shimon dies, disallowing the chain of events to continue to go from Reuven to Shimon, so if Kinyan Peiros lav ki Kinyan HaGoftami, so why would it go to Reuven's kids? It should go back to the Noisein, it should go back to the giver, and it should go to his kids. Rabbi Yechanan's kasha to Rish Lakish. Omar le Rish Lakish responds, Kavar Targima Rav Hoshia, 3 lines at the bottom. Rav Hoshia already explained, Bibaval Acharecha, that what? Acharecha shiny. This case is different. That when one says Acharecha, Reuven, Vacharecha, Shimon, Vacharecha, Levi, that is in essence giving Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, respectively, each rights in the whole thing, even though normally Kinyan HaPeiros is lav Kinyan Guftami, but by saying Acharecha gives you full rights. The Gemara concurs that this indeed, Rami, Rabbi Ravuna Kami the Rav. Rabbi Ravuna has a similar kasha to Rav. V'amar Acharecha shiny. Continues the Gemara, another kasha on Rav Yechon. But we learned in a brisa Yachzul Yarshe Noisen. There's a different brisa that says that indeed it goes back to the Yarshe of the Noisen. Seemingly, mamish like we just said, that Reuven, Reuven only has rights to the Peiros, and then it goes back to the Noisen. Kinyan Peiros, lav Kinyan Guftami. So now the tables have turned, and now we have a kasha on Rav Yechanan. So we turn over to Kuf Lamed Zayin Amud Aleph, and answers the Gemara Tanai. Says clearly a machlekes Tanayim, as we can see clearly that these two braysos are at odds with each other. And the Gemara continues, and the Gemara explains, Titania, we're now going to prove that it is a machlekes Tanayim. Titania that we learned in a brayso, the top line of Kuf Lamed Zayin Amud Aleph. Nechasei lecha v'acharecha leploini. V'yerid rishayin, and the first thing he goes umach and he sells it. V'achla sheni. The first guy goes and he sells the property, and umachar v'achal. You said that wrong. One more time. The V'yarad Risha, the first king goes down to Machar and he sells the property. V'achal, and he consumes and utilizes the money. Hasheni moitzim yad lekucha. So when he dies, the second guy comes and says, "Whoa, what's going on here? I'm supposed to get this, but you already used it all up." Hasheni moitzim yad lekucha. Rebbe holds that the second guy is allowed to go and get it from the purchaser. Rashba Goimer says, Rav Shimon Gamliel, Ein L'Sheni Ella Masha Shayar Rishon. The second guy only has what the first guy gives over. Veremini, that's one brisa. And now we have a stira to this. And he eats and he consumes and he depletes the money. Divrei Rabbi, it's what he's allowed to do. Rashba Goimer, no, in a Rishon Alachilas Peres Balvad. So what do we have? We have a straight up stira. Kasha de Rebbe ad the Rebbe, the Rashbag ad the Rashbag. So says the Gemara, we really have a kasha on Rav Yeich because we seemingly saw that Kinina Peiros is Kinina Gufta, is not Kinina Gufta, excuse me. Therefore, that's why Zachsar of Lenaisi. But proves the Gemara that indeed it's a Machloikis Tanoyim. And the Gemara shows us that it's a straight up stira and Braisais. So answers Gemara, the Rebbe, like Kasha, Halikufa, Haliperi. According to Rebbe, we could answer that the second brisa that says he's allowed to go and get the land back. He's talking about where he sold the actual land. Haliperi. The first brisa where we only sold the peri. So like Kasha, Halichatchila, Ha b'diavad. But what do we see from this discussion? We see very clear that it is indeed a machlokes tanoim as to whether Kinya Beirus can Kinya Goftami, and therefore it's not a kasha on Rav Yochanan. Not a kasha on Rav Yochanan. Amar Abaye, and the Gemara concludes this discussion 12 lines down. The first one line is Hadi Eved. Says Abaye, Ezeu Rasha Arum. What is a Rasha who is Arum, who is cunning, who is sly? Zamasi Eitza Limkar bin Chasam Kirashbag. It's someone who gives an Eitza to sell the property, like Rashbag. Why? Because Shimon Amliel says it only works B'diavad, and therefore is considered a Rasha because you're not supposed to do that. If you did it, it works. If you did it, you're messing the other guy up. So he's a Rasha, but it's an Arum. It's the wrong way of doing things. So Amar Rav Yochanan, as often we've seen, the discussion concludes halacha Rav Shimon Gamliel. Umayda shem nastan b'matana b'manash chimera loy asa klum. We pass the Rav Shimon Gamliel, but if it's given as a manash chimera, it's meaningless, and the second person will indeed go and get the property when the first one is nifter. Says the Gemara, my taima. What's the reason that a manash chimera does nothing? The whole mechanics of the manash chimera is what? The mechanics of the manash chimera is that it allows it to take effect lachar misa. But in this scenario where the land's going to Reuven and then going to Shimon and then going to Levi, and that also kicks in lachar misa, farkadmu acharecha, the Tanai comes along, and the Tanai disallows the manash chimera from going into effect. So says the Gemara, that's the reason why of giving it over as a manash chimera will not do anything for you. Asks the Gemara, Mi amar Abaye hachi, does Abaye really say what we just said? Abaye just explained the reason why the manash chimera does not work. Asks the Gemara, Vayitmar, but we learn manash chimera me'ima saikana. Abaye Amar in Gemar Misa, Varava Amar Lachar Misa. So Abaye just explained why in our case is the manash chimera loy Amar klum. Because in our case we have the acharecha, we have the Tanai, the condition that says after Reuven goes to Shimon, after Shimon goes to Levi, that kicks in with the death. When does the manash chimera work? Le'achar misa, said Abaye. But wait, we have a memra that says that when does Abaye say it works? Not lachar misa. That's what Rava says. But rather, Abaye says im gemar misa. Says the Gemara, Hadar be Abaye mehi. Abaye was chayzer. And now the classical kasha mimai de mehi hadar be dama meha hadar be. We have a steer in Abaye's. So how do you know which one Abaye was chayzer from? Says the Gemara, lo sal gedetach tetanan, because we have a Mishnah that proves that's the one that Abaye was chayzer from. Tetanan, we learned in the Mishnah, Zagidech emesi, so gives his wife a get. It says this is your get if I die. Zagidech mechol if I die from this illness. Zagidech lachar misa. Loy amar klohom amar Rav Zir Rav Yechanan halacha. Excuse me. Loy amar klum. So what do we see from this brisa? From the act Loy amar klum. So we see clearly that Abaye says the reason is that it's chal lachar misa. If it would be chalim gemar misa, then it would be a good get. For the fact that we see that it's chal lachar misa, so too by us by the man of shchimera, it only works lachar misa. Therefore, Abaye must have been chayzer from the second memra. And now, in this last discussion, what's the psak halacha? Amar Rav Zera, Amar Rav Yechon halacha, Rav Shimon Gamliel. We're asking like Rashbag that it only goes over that which is left, and not more than that. And even if he had purchased, even if the Yerusha had included Avadim, and the first guy, again, it's going from Reuven to Shimon to Levi, and Reuven took these Avadim, which again, let's remember, when Reuven dies, everything goes to Shimon. But Reuven went and he freed those Avadim. So what goes to Shimon? The answer is he won't get those Avadim, as Shimon Gamliel is passing only that which is left over goes over. Says the Gemara, Pshita. Same way, Rav Shimon Gamliel just taught us that you're able to sell. Reuven could sell away the properties. Of course, he could free the Avadim. Answers the Gemara, maybe we would think that the slaves, we could say, I didn't give you something to do an Isser. It's an Isser to free the slaves. Says the Torah. Kamash Malah, and then no, even freeing the slaves would work. Similarly, Amar Rav Yosef, Amar Rav Yechanan, Halacha Kirashbag, Va'afilu, and even Asa Tachrichem Lameis, even if he took part of that which he inherited, and he made it into Tachrichem, burial shrouds, Pshita. Explains the Gemara 10 lines to the bottom. The first line is Ma'udetei Malashavani Surah. Hano, I didn't give it to you to create something which is Asar Behano, which is what Tachrichem are. Kamash Malah, and that even in that case, that it works. That's the end, really, of this machlekes Rebbe and Rav Shimon Gamliel, and how we paskin in the case of it goes to Reuven, Acharecha to Shimon, paskin like Rashbag, that Reuven's even allowed to sell, even allowed to free the Avadim, even allowed to make something into an entity that is Aser Behana. Darish Rav Nachman bar Rav Chisda, in a similar vein, we're 6 lines, excuse me, from the bottom. Someone gives an esrog to one person and says it's yours, and after you, it's going to go to someone else. I apologize that the video is a little bit, my forehead is a little see-through in the video. Okay, I'm not sure what's going on over here. As you could tell, we're not in our usual recording element. Okay, hopefully that's a little bit better. Looked a little strange. Says the Gemara, Rebbe v'Rashba, bundle of machlekes Rebbe v'Rashba. That's going to be the same machlekes Rebbe and Rebbe Shimon Gamliel, whether the first guy is able to be yotzei is a chiyuv. Is it considered lachem? Not lo risha. And if the first guy takes the esrog, because it is. So maskler Rav Nachman Yitzchak ad kan lo pligi Rebbe Rashba hasam. Elo de Mar Savar Kini Peiros Kini Goftami, Mar Savar Kini Peiros Lav Kini Goftami. So ask the Gemara and says you're extending the machlekes too far. Until now, there was only machlekes whether Kinyan Gof, whether Kinyan Peiros owning the rights is tantamount to owning the item itself. But ask the Gemara, Elohacha. In this case of the esrog, imapik, Elahacha, I lost my page. Imabik lo napik lo. If you can't be Yitzir mitzvah, lemayavi, why else would he have given him that esrog? Says the Gemara, regardless whether kinyan beir is kinyan guftami, this is why he gave it to him. So clearly he must be able to be Yitzir the mitzvah. So says Ella comes along Rav Nachman. He explains, we must explain that everyone must hold that avada. You're Yitzir the mitzvah. So rather, what's the kasha? But a machlek is Rabbi Rashbag. You have to add into that brisa that if the esrog was sold or used up, that would be the machlekes. Amar Rabbi Ravuna. Says Rabbi Ravuna, now that we're discussing whether you're Yaitse, you're Chiyav with such an esrog, comes along Rabbi Ravuna and he explains. Yeah, and I apologize for the video. That looks a little bit strange. Amar Rabbi Ravuna, ha'achad shekanu esrog b'teiv sefes abayis, nalu echa meyan v'yotzabai. If brothers buy an esrog with the sefes abayis, tfusas abayis, which is an estate which is not divided yet, then what is the halacha? Nalu echa meyan, if one of them took the esrog v'yotzabai, the first one took the esrog and he filled his mitzvah with it. Yes, if he would have been able to eat the esrog if he wanted to, then he's yotze his mitzvah. If he wouldn't have been able to eat the esrog, he's not yotze. This is only the esrog l'chol chad v'chad. This is only where they bought an esrog that each brother could get one. But if there's only one esrog, and then there's other fruit. There's a parish, a quince, a remain, a pomegranate, and that's what the other brothers would get. Then no one would be able to utilize the esrog, as it would be impossible to say that each person has full bailus, that the esrog would be lachem to each and every one of them. Amar Rava, another halacha on the esrog, a third halacha. Esrog said, "Not lachem matana menashe tachseru ali." Famous, can you give an esrog Almanas, that you give it back to me? Not love Yatzab, if he took it and he's to the mitzvah, Chziroi, if he indeed then fulfilled the condition, which was then to return the esrog, Yatzah, then indeed he's to the mitzvah. La Yachziru, then Allah Yatzah, he's not Yatzah. Says the Gemara, Kamash Malan. What do we see from over here? We see from over here that indeed we paskin the Matana Almanas LaHachzir, Shema Matana, that if you give a gift conditional to return it, it is considered a good gift. Famous Gemara, this is how it could work on the first day of Sukkot, that one could lamaisa the Yitzhak mitzvah giving to someone else on condition that they give it back. Says the Gemara, smack in the middle of the Amid, the first one line is Shema Matana Hayitza. There was a woman, Davila Dikla Ba'ara, that had a date palm tree, and it was on the land of Rabbi every time she would come to cut down the fruit, it was on the land of Rabbi Barabaya, and Rabbi Barabaya was makbid. So therefore, what did she do? She went and gave the tree to Bibi Barabaya all the days of her life. Azal Iu Rabbi Barabaya went and gave this tree to his child who was a katan. Says the Gemara, Rav Huna Rav Yeshua. Says Rav Huna Bar Rav Yeshua, Rav Bibi, it's incorrect what you did. You come from Mimulai, you're doing things that are blemished. Afilu lirashbag, and this ties together the old daf like Amar Alacher. Even Rav Shimon Gamliel, who said that when the Yerusha is given to Rishon and then to Shimon and then to Levi, that he allows the first guy to sell it, to consume it, etc. Like Amar Elolacher, he only held that where the land is going from Reuven to Shimon to Nacher after his death. But if it's a situation where he wants the land to go straight and go back to himself, even Shimon Gamliel would say that is not correct. So in this story, even though you gave it to your son, it's going to go back to this woman. It was incorrect, that which you did. Says the Gemara, one last Gemara, similar to the Esther case that we just said. Someone gives a shar to his friend on condition that he returns it, iktishu. If he's makdish it to the base of Migdash, and then returns it, arezem mukdash, umaisa has a status of hektish umuchzar, and now it's considered returned because he fulfilled its condition, but it's considered that it is hektish. So Amrle Rav Nachman Maya Hadre, I don't understand. How can you say this is a fulfillment of his tenai? Excuse me, to return it back to the Bailam. He didn't return anything because right now it's hektish. Amrle Umay Chasre. I don't understand. What do you lose? The ox is still here, fully intact. Elam Ravashi Chazin, and we see. Amar, if he said Amanas, Shetachziru ho. If the conditioner return it, you're right, Audrey, you return the physical ox. If he said that you return it to me, then he's adding in that I want to be able to get something. If you're returning me something which belongs to Hektish, I'm not getting anything. And then and therefore, such a case it would not work. Stop over here. I'll pick it up from here. B'siyata dishmaya.